Hello. Yep, we're live again. It's now 10:30 on the 21st of August, and today I'm joined by this fella, Dave Scholes, who I've not actually known for very long, but feel like I've known him for a lot longer. So we're going to have a chat today about the impact of COVID and his experiences. We're going to talk about Mindsight, his business, and various different challenges that people have been experiencing. So we'll just play the rule on the intro, and then we'll crack on. Here we go.
I want to be daring, baby, dance the night away. I let my hair down if I want. Don't you just get tired chasing fame and being pretty all the time? Doesn't sound like fun. You can do better. Let me show you what a good time looks like. You can do better. You can do better. Let me show you what a good time looks like. You can do better. I dare you to be wilder. Shoes off if I want. Let yourself be free and maybe you will find that there is more to life than being pretty. Honey, let's just face it. Baby, let your head down, be a little wilder. Baby, kick your shoes off, you don't have to hide it. Baby, let your head down, be a little wilder. Baby, kick your shoes off, don't hide it. I don't fit into your box, beauty queens without no flaws. You can do better, I dare you to be wilder. I don't fit into your box.
Okay, here we are live, 21st of August, 10:30 a.m. with this fella, David Scholes. And actually, Dave, I think you deserve this, actually. Okay. And you're the first person that I've played that. First guest I've played that for. So I think that shows that I respect you terribly.
Thank you very much, mate. That's an opener, that. I hope I'm good from now on.
It is. Right, okay. People don't want to hear me today. They want to hear about you. So let's crack on. Tell us who you are, what you do, what you're about.
Absolutely. Okay. So, yeah, as you said, Dave Scholes. I am Burnley born and bred. Very proud of the Lancastrian roots. And I've got a business called Mindsight, and we work around all areas of mental health, well-being, in a slightly different way, probably to a lot of people see within this particular structure. We're very much about culture change. We're very much about trying to educate people and help people wherever they are in terms of their journey from a well-being point of view, so that they can help themselves, help the people around them, and just generally live the best life that they possibly can in the workplace, out the workplace, with family. Basically, mate, we want to save the world. That's what we want to do.
So, of course, could you ever believed when we first met, which is probably best part of a year ago now, I'd estimate, when we were talking about what various plans and projects, could you have ever imagined what was coming?
Not in the slightest. I mean, to be honest, I'd have probably done things a little bit differently if I had. And I realised when we start, we've only actually met live once, haven't we?
Yeah.
Everything else we've had is because of kind of the lockdown and COVID has been via Zoom, and it just feels quite normal, doesn't it? But yeah, we planned to launch the business back in March. That was the initial plan. It was very much around, going into workplaces as well as charities and the education sector with some live stuff to help staff teams and managers and all this kind of stuff in I guess what people would traditionally call your training, your coaching kind of things, as well as multiple other elements. And that was the whole scheme. We were ready to go, and we didn't. Quite frankly.
On your marks, get set, stop.
Absolutely, that's exactly how it was. And I'll be honest, mate, it threw me for the first month of this, because it ramped up from me kind of starting this concept kind of back October, back end of last year, really, with the idea to launch. I had a real structured plan, a real clear delivery model, and then this happened. But I tell you what, it changed a lot of stuff in how we do things for the better. It's given us something fuller. It's given us something bigger. It's introduced us to a lot of things that maybe we hadn't considered in the same way, that we know what we deliver both in and outside the workplace will be stronger for it. So it's been twofold, mate. It's been a real journey for me in terms of everything's a bit on hold, but at the same time, I've learned an awful lot of stuff really by listening to people, which is the ethos of what we want to do with Mindsight anyway, because everybody is different when it comes to well-being. Everybody's at a different place, understands it at a different level, is affected by it at a different level, and needs help with it at a different level. So the listening bit has been massive for me.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that. It's very similar in obviously a different way, but very similar in the digital world. And I often say when I run webinars, and in the old days, when I used to run
webinars,
training courses in the live locations. And I used to say the same thing. You get people coming in there who, some on one end of the scale, who have their own digital channel, they have their own vlog, they're doing podcasting, they're confident on camera, right the way across to somebody sat right next to them who's still trying to work out where the on button is on the iPad, and everything in between. So I can certainly relate to that. So just in terms of how you're seeing the world differently now from your business perspective, have you seen a significant difference in the attitudes and mindsets and needs of your customers and potential customers? And or is it also about how you deliver what you do now that we're in the world of Zoom?
Yeah, I think it's changed on a weekly basis, Phil. I honestly do, in terms of what's come out in the news, what's come out in terms of furlough and people going back to work and people leaving work for working from home. The point where it was all right for the cat and the kids to come on the back of the Zoom call, and then it wasn't. Everybody should have been used to it. And when we've done Zooms chatting through there's the chat section there, and this is how you do that, to everybody looking at you blankly when you explain how to use Zoom. We chatted off air, hadn't we, that we'd done Zoom for a while before this came in, and we're quite comfortable with it. But I think what we found in terms of what we realised very quickly was that our route to the business market, which is what we ultimately wanted to deliver, wasn't there. But the culture of the business, which is bigger than workplace well-being, that's not what we will do, because people have lives. Some people are brilliant at work, awful at home. Some people are brilliant at home, awful at work. So we can't fix somebody 9 to 5 and then leave them on their own beyond that. But at the same time, we understand that a business also has areas of their staff that is beyond their responsibility and beyond their level of ability to care. So it's got to be lifestyle change and culture change. So that's what we really focused on. I had this panic when everybody was flipping out the top 5 things, top 5 tips to work from home. I thought, I've missed the well-being space, this thing that I'm massively heart passionate about. And that's it. I want to help people. That's the be all and end all of the business. I thought, I've missed it. Everybody's doing this thing. Nobody knows who we are. And I thought, the culture bit actually of what we do, the bit where people can have a conversation with a mate and get a little bit of help, or they can find out that somebody's there for them, or they start a conversation that maybe they wouldn't have been confident enough to have before. That's the culture bit. So that's what we worked on. That's been our striding goal, I guess, for the last kind of 4 months. How do we get this message that it's okay to have a conversation? You don't have to be an expert, but it's really good to know where the experts are. This is not a lone journey. You're not on your own in this. That's the heart of Mindsight. we talk about it as well-being with the swagger of the Gallagher brothers, and that lands very well with some people, and other people go, what you on about? That it's a serious topic, well-being. Don't swagger it up. But for me, it's about educating heads and giving people a toolkit of things to look after themselves and the people around them, but also empowering the heart to make those. We know it's tough to say I'm not doing okay, and we also know it's tough to say to somebody that you think's not doing okay, can I help? And that's what we've done. We've helped people by creating spaces and creating environments where people can come and talk without having a title or a label or I'm from such and such a business and I'm an MD or whatever it is, to talk about topics around this whole subject of health and well-being. So that's what we've done. We've done this roast and toast thing, which is this coffee morning that we've put together on a Wednesday, which I'm happy to chat a little more about, mate, if that's kind of the way we want to go.
Of course. Tell us about it. So
I had this little concept, as is often the way with me, that creating a space over a brew. One of the things that I've been through my own journey. I lost my best mate to suicide 8 years ago, and it threw me sideways, mate. Absolutely, as you would expect. Went on a journey of trying to deal with that with a load of great family support, load of great friend support, load of great advice. But also in the midst of that, I was doing some charity stuff, working with people going through a lot of mental health stuff that were in worse places than me. And it really helped me. And I thought, I need to combine all this stuff to work. So Roast and Toast became this little idea of going, right, okay, now we're all on Zoom. What if we could get people together in a space over the simple thing of a coffee, opening up a bit of chat, doing something in and around a topic linked to health and well-being, but not in the same way that everybody else is doing. I didn't want to do something where, right, okay, this morning we're going to talk about anxiety, or this morning we're going to talk about depression. I wanted to do something where people came into a space, and if those things were talked about, great, So flipping the focus is our tagline. So that's what we did. We look at topics like courage, for example, but we'll go be less Lion from The Wizard of Oz, be more Liam Gallagher from Oasis. And it's all about having the confidence to go, I'm not okay. And people resonated with it. And I started off telling my story and opened myself up. And that gave people license to talk. I started with friends and family. But actually what I found was that this space, because people were helping each other through real experience, through real stories, that we've had some fun with, mate. It's not all doom and gloom in this arena. It's just a space where people go, do you know what, today I'm struggling with this, or today I'm doing brilliantly with this. Let me tell you how I dealt with that, or let me tell you what my business is doing with that. And we're not telling people what to do. We're telling people what we've all done. And we've had, I think, 150, 160 people on this over the last 12 weeks, 25 or so people every week, just in this brilliant space to talk and share and get some tips to go away and use with friends and family and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's been brilliant, mate. Better than I thought it'd die. Thought it'd die within about 4 weeks, but it's not. It's getting bigger and better.
Well, I think that's an interesting point, and I'll ask you about that actually, because as I perceive it, the whole mental health discussion seems to have been significantly greater over the last, let's say, 18 months, maybe say 2 years. Yeah. Government seemed to have been pushing it a little bit more, the before all the pandemic kicked off and everything about, talk, make sure you talk to each other, and high profile celebrities and such like. And now obviously with Zooms and people working from home and all the rest of it, I always think that one of the challenges is us Brits are not very good, are we, at opening ourselves up? We know this in business.
Well, being a British fella, that you're in the worst category there, mate. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A British, but then male with it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Do you think that it has started to melt a little bit? Do you think it has started to thaw a little bit? Are there indications that people are, particularly guys, I guess, in that context of what you've just said, are they starting to open up a little bit more? Or is it a slow process? Because, like all these things, it doesn't necessarily happen overnight.
Yeah, I would say yes, 100% with that. And I think that, the media awareness, you look at the FA Cup final, don't you? Heads up FA Cup, Prince William's behind it. You've got all this stuff, which is great. So definitely it's getting media attention, all this kind of stuff. I think for me, it's now got to a stage where all this stuff's out there, and what I see as our role as Mindsight and other people that are doing this brilliantly is sitting in that gap where it's like anything in it. You go on Google, you can find all the answers. Everything you want around anything to do with mental health and well-being is there at the touch of a button. I think where we see the space is creating that where it's culturally okay in any environment to have that conversation. So I guess, for example, your workplace has got a brilliant employment engagement program, all the counseling's there, you've got the access to all these kind of things to help you from, joining the gym to whatever. I think what we want to do is ask the questions in that mix. So, your EAP program might have a 25% off gym membership. That's brilliant. But what if 75% of your staff play football and don't go to the gym? It's a bit of an irrelevant addition. And I think what we want to do is help people, now these conversations are starting to happen, actually put the right things in place to help that business grow their staff. We are absolutely 100% people over profit. I believe wholeheartedly, if you invest in your people, they as a business will make you more money. But if you're investing in your people to make you more money, that's a different animal entirely. And I think the conversations are starting, definitely. It's putting them into the arenas where it's more difficult. And I'm really keen to get this message out, into pubs and into coffee shops, into the environments where it's just normal. This for me is brilliant. It's a 31-day podcast where we're talking about mental health and well-being in the midst of a load of other things. I've done a couple of radio shows where, in the midst of talking about a tragedy like losing my mate, we've had a bit of banter around, what do you do as a hobby? What do you like doing in your spare time? And I think it's that normalization in there. But I think more than anything, it's positioning yourself to help a business owner or a HR department or whatever that is to provide the best things for their staff without it being really time consuming for them, without it only coming in at the point of crisis. Our model is very much around prevention. If we can start some of these conversations at the earliest level, people can help people. Our model is help yourself, help the person that sits next to you, help the wider world, really. But also the same thing applies to environment. Can we create a business where there is the space for this to happen? Because there's no point getting everybody talking about well-being very positively if there's not the space in the business or the education sector or wherever that is to do something with it. So yeah, 100% the conversations are better. I think for me now, it's bridging the gap between, not feeling like you can go to the professional care that you need because does that affect your, pay rise? Does it inflate your employment? It's not a cultural norm within the workplace, even though I think individually the conversations are better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does make sense. I do think that there's going to be some massive challenges ahead on so many levels from a work and business point of view. I know we've spoken before, and I might have mentioned that I've got a corporate background until I went into this weird world of self-employment in, I think it was 2003 now, a long time ago. But I did have a corporate background before that. And I've sometimes thought about this situation at the moment, and my instincts tell me that right now, with the challenges that are going to be around the finances of the business, at moments like that, that's when the finance director or the finance people are much more in control and much more influential. Yeah. And I do kind of worry about that, because I just wonder how much of, all the people stuff's great and we've done lots of different things, but right now it's what the spreadsheet says.
Yeah.
And then you've got the added complications, and this is just the reality. You've got the added complications of the fact that it's highly likely in a number of cases they will cut the workforce.
Yeah.
I do think it's, and this might be controversial, but I do believe that it's at times like this that companies will be looking to maybe get rid of a bit of dead wood.
Yeah.
Because, and we all know sometimes businesses carry people that they wouldn't, if it wasn't for the laws of the land, they wouldn't continue with. They've given them the chance to be part of the team. They've given them the chance to be part of the journey. They've given them the chance to be contributing on a positive level. But despite all those opportunities, they're still stirring it and causing trouble behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And then added to that, you've also then got the people that are left with a job, and they're like, oh, blimey, I've survived it. But then, of course, you get the guilt trip of, they call it survivor syndrome.
Yeah.
So what's your view on that? Do you think that companies are not only going to go through a major financial challenge, but they're also going to have to develop and work out what culture they're going to have, especially when that culture's probably been honed and developed. And I know I'm going on a bit here, but honed and developed over a good period of time. But all of a sudden now half the workforce are working from home.
Yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with you, mate. I think, having seen this and having had conversations with numerous different businesses, the decisions that are being made are often financial decisions and not necessarily people decisions, because they have to be made. I very rarely go into a business who flat downright turn around and go, we don't need this. My opening line for businesses is, if you're having house moves, births, deaths, marriages, business growing pains, if you have any of those in the next 12 months, we probably are needed, because that's going to, cause some sort of well-being or anxiety issue in your workforce. If you don't have those things, you don't need us. And most businesses come back, and we had those in the last 2 weeks, let alone the last 12 months. And I think that's just magnified massively. But I think when we're going in, that decision, we need you, is also alongside, right, we need some money for marketing, we need some money for this, we need some money to do X, Y, and Z. Is this a priority? And that 100% is our challenge. My honest opinion is that I think this will be worse in the new year than it is now. My approach to this is let's start to put some stuff in place for the changes that you're going to make as a business. So one, as an employer, if you are letting people go, let's let them go in the best possible way so that we can look after them a little bit. If you are keeping people, let's deal with the positives and negatives of those staying in works. There's a load of businesses that I know that have downside offices. We had 40 plus staff in and around the office every day. We're now going down to a shared office over 2 days. The majority of people are working from home. The thing that I think's missing, I'm going to miss in those scenarios, is one, working from home at the moment, it's got an element of fun to it. Once the kids are back at school and all these kind of things, there's not as much leniency, I don't think, from a business to go, right, okay, I understand that you're homeschooling. The fact that we've not made those sales targets is okay, I get it. When the kids are back at school, that's not there anymore. You're working from home on your own. I do it, and I've done it for years, and I know I need to get out and sit in a coffee shop to be around people a lot. It's important, because we have people. Yeah. The thing that I think that people aren't thinking about are the little wins that you get about being in a shared space. You're having a bad day, you go and have a 10-minute coffee in the coffee room with a mate and just put the world to rights. And then you can't schedule that in over Zoom. That doesn't work. And you're not going to be given the space for that to work. So culturally, how are the things that potentially managers aren't seeing on the day-to-day because they're not in that space, how do they continue? So Roast and Toast has been brilliant for that, in terms of we've not asked people what the position is or what the job is before they come in. And I've had doctors on there, well-being professionals, we've had one-man bands, we've had sole traders, we've had people part of large corporates, we've had national organisations, and people don't know who those people in that space it's not title, it's not driven, but it's helped those conversations flow because everybody's got a voice. And I think as this changes, and it'll change week, month, and year. You know, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. If we're being very honest about this, you know, we want to get to a point where our model is very bespoke for each business. We start with what we call a heart finder. We sit with a business and go, right, where are you at today? What are your strengths, your weaknesses? What you're doing for well-being? What do you think your hurdles are going to be? What are the things that you do really well, but maybe they aren't really good? You know, you think they're brilliant, you think they're affecting a lot of people, but are you asking the question? What's your procedures for letting people go? What's, you know, the values that you've got on your wall that you have printed all over your office saying you're all about people and X, Y, and Z? Is it actually lived, or is it just a nice little fridge magnet you've got somewhere? And I think that cultural change piece is so important over the next few months, because a culture of care means that if people have to be let go because of a business decision, you still care for them and you're still bothered about them. And it can't be time consuming. Of course it can't. I get that. And it can't eat into profit, but you can still care for people and want the best for them. And if we can put some of this stuff in place that helps them beyond the workplace, then actually we can help as well as the business helping. And I think that's where I see our place, and that's where I see us being a little bit different to maybe some other stuff that's out there.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. Got a question here for you, actually, just come through from Jonathan.
Okay.
He's just saying, how important is it that the management lead by example during the current situation?
Great question. And
it is, isn't it?
It's a brilliant one. And for me, that leadership example is massive. I know that when we speak to businesses, sometimes our main delivery will be with the workforce. You know, in many cases, management, not through any fault of their own, but because they've never struggled with any of this stuff, are making decisions for their workforce based on their lifestyle. And that's not a bad thing. If you've never struggled with any level of mental health or anything like that, then great. You know, it's like physical health. Some people are very fortunate that they're in a good place physically. Other people aren't so fortunate, and it's the same with mental health. That's how we see it. The leading by example is huge, and I think our model being kind of top down and bottom up shows that how this works. You know, we need managers to engage with the concept for themselves as well as their workforce, because we start with the I. You know, managers are going to be stressed in these situations. They've got financial stuff to deal with. They're going home to family and friends that might be getting the thing that they're keeping in work might be coming out at home, because they've got to be this front facing thing at work. But, you know, it might be the missus at home that's getting the brunt of all the issues. And I think starting with that, we talk about creating the space for this to happen and leading by example. If the manager never leaves their desk at lunchtime for 15 minutes, you can't expect your staff to do it, but it'll do them the world of good. If the manager is very sharp with responses in emails, and they're very reactive rather than responsive, that's what you'll get from your staff, because that's what people look up to. And for us, that management, that leadership isn't just the MD. That's at every level. You know, it's team leaders, it's HR, it's finance. It could be you're sat on a table of 4 people in a little pod, and there's somebody in that table that drives you forward. They're the leader, they're the example, they're the people that you follow. So we start this model, we and us, because we want to start off, and when we go into businesses, and it's what we've done with everything that we do, we say to managers, we want to help you first. Now you might be okay, great, brilliant, but if you're not, let's start to deal with that. If you are, how does the fact that you're okay allow you to help the people around you? Friends, family, business colleagues, clients, you know, anybody that you come into contact. We want to create beacon businesses that are doing something genuinely positive for well-being with their workforce, that has impact, that changes culture, that allows somebody to say, I'm not doing okay, whether that's the MD or the person that's been there for 2 days, and that be okay. In the same way that if you broke your leg, you'd come in and talk about it as the MD. It wouldn't affect anything to do with your employment, and you'd talk about it to the point of, you know, the plaster goes off, but you always manage it, and it would always be discussed. That's our dream, and I think it works at top level down. I'm very aware that in most businesses, it will be the few that are carrying the load rather than the many. Letting somebody go is a tough decision. Whether you like them or not, that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Making a decision on behalf of your business is not an easy thing. So to be able to lead in that positively, you've got to be doing okay yourself, or at least have some stuff in your toolbox to manage that for the benefit of the people around you. So hopefully that answers the question. It's a biggie, but it starts with you, and you're not immune to it. You've got to start with looking after you. Self-care is massive. It's a huge thing, whatever that looks like for an individual.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer. I mean, something you said there actually, which I can kind of relate to a little bit. I tend, as an individual, I tend to stay clear to a point of mental health stuff. I interview lots of people about it, especially in the current climate. But the reason is I'm one of those people, luckily, that I've just got a practical perspective on life so far. And I'm not so arrogant or naive to think that I could be talking to you on a very different level 3 months from now, something major happens. But I tend to be more from the world of, and I know it's not an either or, but I tend to be more from the world of resilience. And I've talked about this on this channel, where it's like, look, it is what it is, deal with it and find the practical solutions to move forward. Yeah. That's just because that's in my nature. And the reason I don't talk about it is I understand that that doesn't mean to say that other people do not see it that way. I mean, we all know, don't we, that with mental health elements, most of the depression and mental health stuff, a lot of it is chemical. And you do see, and a good example of it, I think, is when you see, and I know people who have been persuaded, shall we say, to go on antidepressants, and it's literally changed the chemicals in the brain, and they're a different person. Now, there's all sorts of debates about should you do it, should you take them, should you not take them, should you don't get hooked and all that kind of thing. But, you know, as I say, I'm kind of always a little bit wary, because the other reason I'm a little bit wary is I do think some people jump on the bandwagon and use it to hide behind.
Yeah.
So I know of people in my networks who, for example, will have a difficult performance review on the Friday, and on the Monday they're off sick with a doctor's note for stress for 2 months.
Yeah.
Now, there's no way of proving it. No. And I know it's controversial even saying it.
Yeah, yeah.
But for me, that, of course, then starts, unfortunately, that starts to make you think, well, if I know that person and that person are doing that, how many others are doing that? And I don't think that's fair on people who have genuine mental health challenges and depression challenges. I don't know what you think about that, because I know it's a bit controversial, and people sometimes feel uncomfortable with me saying that.
It's a very honest point, that. So let me throw some stuff in on that, because it's something that comes our way an awful lot.
Yeah,
so I think one of the things that we want to do, although we've mentioned well-being and mental health an awful lot in this conversation, I kind of want to get away from those conversations and using those terms. So our model's all around architecture, which is a bit long-winded, but I'll kind of I'll unpack it maybe if we have the time. But when you say well-being, generally people think fluffy, you know, beanbag slides, all the fruit bowls in the office. When you say mental health, people think clinical, and there's so much between those two things that neither of those statements are a fair reflection on everything. You know, that there are people living with mental illness. Mental health isn't mental illness. I strongly believe that everybody has mental health like they have physical health. Mental illness is a different animal. It's the clinical stuff. It's the stuff where people are living with serious challenge on a daily basis. I've no professional expertise in this area. So let's be straight up with this. I've been on a journey, and I've kind of been down the route of the medication. I've been down the route of the counselling. I've sat in a lot of situations with people in really tough places, but all I've got in that is my journey with that and the conversation. Mm. So when I went down the route of medication, I spoke to somebody that I was doing some counselling work with to find out what was good. Because a lot of people, a lot of the issues that I have at the moment with the workplace are, this comes into the world of the manager at a point of crisis. They don't know what to do with that. So they signposted to the person they think is the expert, which is the GP. Somebody goes to the GP, potentially receives some medication, which absolutely right, balances all the chemicals, but they aren't doing anything around the root cause of that. Medication's brilliant, but it doesn't fix you. It helps and it supports, but there's other things that you need to do. And I learned that through my own experience. I wasn't going through anything like what people go through on a daily basis, but I had some stuff that, I did some counselling first, and I did various forms, some of which worked, some of which didn't, which again is why we look at this of going, it's not one size fits all. Don't just have a CBT counsellor in your workplace, because that doesn't work for everybody. But as I was having those conversations, I started to want to learn some stuff about how I was made up. I play a lot of sports, so the counselling that worked best for me was very much like you, Phil, a little bit of resilience stuff. What can I do? What can I bring out the toolkit when I need it to help me maybe reduce some of this anxiety or reduce some of the stuff that's going on in my head? When that didn't work for me as well as it used to, and the eye-opener for me, mate, was I go snowboarding every year. That was the 1 week that fixed me. I'd go there, I'd stand at the top of the mountain, I'd do all the kind of well-being stuff where you're taking in nature and everything, and I'd come back okay. And I went 1 year and it didn't work, and it threw me, because that was my fixer. So I knew I had to have another conversation, and that went around the stuff that normally works isn't working anymore. And the meds came into play, but it was alongside some further counselling, some different stuff, and I got the advice on, keep your doses low, keep X, Y, and Z. And it was part of a plan. And when I spoke to the GP about it, they went, this is a plan, isn't it? I said, yeah, absolutely it is. I don't want to, I'm not coming on this to fix me. I'm coming on it because it will help me at the moment, because all the biological stuff says it will, but it's not my long-term solution. And I don't want it to be a long-term solution. The other things are in place. And I think that's where this all fits in. The amount of employers and employees that turn around and go, well, it's the new bad back, Dave, isn't it? Mental health. People are just fudging it. It's the easy thing to get out of work. My opener is, are you willing to take a chance? Because I'm not on that. A bad back's not going to kill you, but mental health possibly could. And the cultural model that we're putting in place, for me, when these conversations become normal in that environment, whether it's office, education, charity, if you're sat next to somebody when you're saying you're not doing great and you're going through this process of potentially leaving or potentially being off work with this, if they're kind of challenging you or having conversations with a bit more education as to, well, have you tried this? Have you thought about a breathing exercise? Have you thought about this kind of counselling? Then it doesn't necessarily reach the crisis point. But when it does, people are more informed around solutions. For me, when we've worked with businesses, if somebody's challenging you, not in a nasty way, but in challenging you and providing you with opportunity to help you, and you're taking it, then you want to do something about it. If you're not taking those opportunities, one, because maybe the people you're going to don't know what's available, so they're just pointing to the thing that they know or the thing that shouts loudest, then you're restricted by the solutions. If you as a workplace have a structure and a plan that this is normal conversation, that if people are, part of policies, procedures, whatever it needs to be, that at every level of this journey, the people around you know a little bit more. It's clear as an office and a workplace policy that you're looking into, educating staff around mental health and well-being and physical health, whatever it needs to be. But you are supportive in that individual's journey. I'm convinced there will be less of the this is fudging it a little bit, and more of the I'm genuinely not doing great. Because if you're genuinely not doing great, you know earlier on. You know, if you can have that conversation earlier on at crisis point, it's very, very hard for a business to take control of that situation, because it's very, very hard for that person to take control of that situation. And you can't separate somebody that you think is making it up from somebody that you think is really struggling. And I think that for me is the bit that's going to be dangerous in this, as we were talking about before, when these conversations come out. It's like Googling your symptoms, isn't it? It's a dangerous thing to Google your symptoms in terms of physical health. I think this is the same. And that culture change piece that is bigger than workplace well-being, bigger than just a workshop on mental health first aid, is the bit that I think reduces those issues for, you know, the one or the two people that have to make that decision on whether somebody leaves the workplace or doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it brings in the resilience stuff that you're talking about. You know, a lot of this stuff is, for me, around resilience. You know, those little, we talk about this architecture model, we talk about stuff in your toolkit, the things that you can bring out when, you know, you've had a bad day on the calls, you work in a call center, your morning's been horrendous calls, the little things that you can bring out to put you back in a good place so that you can do a great afternoon's work, or the thing that gives you 15 minutes at the start of a day because you've had an horrific weekend, that puts you in a place where you're feeling better because the people around you are backing you up, but you can do your job. You know, we're not naive enough to think that this hasn't to be about time saving for a business, and it hasn't to be about finance. It has to be, because you've got to run a business, and more importantly now than ever, that's got to be effective. But people are a business's best asset, and if you keep the good uns, they'll bring in other good uns, and if you keep that culture, you know, if you sell tires are pretty much the same price everywhere. The product's pretty much the same, but it's the service that makes people keep coming back to buy from you. And I think for me, from a marketing background, which I have, there's a massive marketing piece in this. If your business is culturally strong for your staff, and your staff talk well about you, and they're having a great experience in work when they pick the phone up to customers, actually they'll make you a lot of money, because people will come back and go, well, if they're looking after the staff and they've got these great policies of care in place, of course they're going to look after me as a customer. Why wouldn't they? It makes perfect sense. And we want to help people shout about it. If they're doing something great in the community, if they're doing something great for staff, let's shout about it in turn. Let's make it a social norm in that business for this to happen, in the business, out the business. You know, if a kid's doing brilliant at school, let's support the school as a business. Whatever it is, you know, it changes culture. It's big. I know it's big, but little habits will start to move people in the right direction.
Absolute wise words, my friend.
Thank you.
Somebody's saying hello to you here. I don't know if you know.
Hi, Joe. Yes. Jo is,
is she your number one fan?
Fabulous lady who does a lot of stuff in and around managing kind of sugar and some of the habits that we have in and around eating, which again, you know, part of what we do as Mindset is we link in with people like Jo, who have got specialisms in certain areas, because we know different people struggle with different things. So yeah, Jo's a fab lady, somebody I've known for a little while in the part of this journey. So yeah, if you're struggling with anything to do with sugar, she's your lady.
Yeah, absolutely. And whilst we're on the topic, there's another chap here, and I know you know, who's very much. And I think I'm pretty sure Steve was in France, and I'm pretty sure he's had to self-isolate because he was in France when it all kicked off. But yeah, of course, Steve Smith's obviously a great leader and a particular big voice in the Northwest in general, I would say, about employee engagement. Somebody else who's very passionate about employee engagement as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We've talked an awful lot about this, and you know, I know Steve's passion for making the Northwest the best place to work on the planet, which is brilliant. You know, and our conversations have been along the lines of, well, if it's the best place to work, it's also got to be the healthiest place to work. Because to be the best place and the best businesses, we've got to have the best people. And you know, I resonate so much with Steve's passion for that. And it links in, doesn't it? You know, we know that a HR team or a finance director or an MD or even the person that's become the workplace well-being representative, they all have different agendas with this. And our agenda with this is to make them the best that they can be in that particular role, whether it's saving them time, saving them money, or making them look like the world's best well-being professional by helping them to put the things in place for the people around them. Then absolutely, that's what we want to do. And we know that those are different conversations. But like the roast and toast, you know, people are finding this event and coming in after 1 week and going, I can't believe the difference this has made. And for me, you know, the challenge for us as Mindset is getting over that hurdle of a business that's not sure about this, not sure that they want to spend money on it. I know within a couple of sessions it will make a difference. Absolutely, it will. We want to do stuff for the price of a coffee. That's the whole roast and toast theme. You know, that's where we're going for. We want to make it accessible to staff. It's got to be up there with gym membership. It's got to be up there with EAP. It's got to be up there with the things that people know. But, you know, you pay for an IT, you know, subscription, don't you? They come in when you need them. We're saying, right, we'll give you the same thing. You can come to us when you need us, but we're actually going to give you something every week before you need us to reduce that. And listen, it's got to be value. We talk about value on investment. It's like return on investment, but it's about people. And I think when we look at it like that, it's not just profit. It's not just the purse string stuff. It's actually just creating a brilliant place to work and helping people to have a brilliant place to live, whatever that looks like for them. You know, thrive, not survive gets thrown around an awful lot. But it's true, you know, if you've got people that are absolutely thriving in whatever space that will be, because you can thrive when you're going through this stuff. You know, there's a lot of people in industry that are managing mental health challenges extremely well on a daily basis, and they are some of the best people in industry. So let's not put this, you're either well or you're not well. There's times to thrive at whatever state you are on this well-being scale, where you can impact the people around you, and that's just what I want to do, mate. That's absolutely.
Yeah, well, I think Joe sums it up very well there, actually. I mean, that's one of the things I noticed about you from the very first go. It's true when you say it's about people over. It's not about money. It's about helping people, and it's a passion, and it absolutely exudes from you, mate. For what it's worth, that's been certainly my observation. I've actually got a question here as well from off the system on an email. Amir.
Yeah.
And Amir is saying that he's got, he says, I've got a great sense of humor, but mental health and mental health is always a very serious topic.
Yeah.
I'm always nervous that if I bring humor into mental health, I won't be taken seriously. What's your view on that?
Great question. I mean, we're sat here as a business talking about the swagger of the Gallagher brothers. You know, so it's a similar thing. We've always said that we want to make, we don't want to hide away from, there's some crisis stuff within this arena. Of course there is, you know, people, you know, loss of life and long-term clinical mental challenges are horrendous. You know, I've experienced those with other people. I've got really close friends who are going through, and I've been through some tough stuff. That's not fun. There's no fun there. But I also really strongly believe that to change the culture of this, these topics can be lighter. You know, so when we talk about the topics that we've done in Roast and Toast, the reason that it works is because the space that we've created is safe. You know, and there's so much stigma around these words, you know, anxiety, depression, well-being, mental health. As soon as I'm saying those, people are thinking stuff. Guaranteed, there's something in your head that you attach to that. Breaking down the stigma of anything means that your character comes out. I'm doing this fully Burnley, fully swaggery, fully flipping the focus, because I truly believe that in most cases, and this is from my own personal experience, you know, for all the counselling stuff that I did, conversations with a mate over a pint or over a cup of coffee where we just had a laugh and unpacked some stuff and talked about life, and I knew they were there for me even though they didn't understand what I was going through, was really valuable for me. And I can only deliver this from my own experience, and I can only get myself around other people with similar experiences. So I'd like to think I was quite a funny person. I'd like to think, and I'm sure people that have been on Roast and Toast, you know, we have a section called What's in Dave's Head. And it's the bit where I unpack why we're talking about the Lion from the Wizard of Oz versus Liam Gallagher. What's that got to do with mental health? And it's the bit where I go, do you know what? That seems quirky to me. It seems fun to me. It seems not light-hearted, because that's wrong. But it feels a light introduction to people around a tough topic. And if we can do that, that makes things easier to talk about. So I totally believe that, you know, the sessions that we deliver and the people that talk about this will be people being normal. I don't want to be different when I talk about mental health. I want to be Dave. And I think the question there is absolutely right. If you are a fun person, that'll rub off on people. You know, we're saying only this week in Roast and Toast that the power of a smile to somebody, the power of just being jovial and being there for somebody and being yourself. Don't not be yourself around somebody that's struggling, because they love you for who you are, and they've brought you into this conversation because they think that what you've got as an individual is there for them. So if you're fun, be fun. You know the line. You know, we always say we're not creating experts, but we need to know where the experts are. You know, there's a line where me as somebody with an experience and a story and some of my own personal stuff has to go, you need some professional help and support. And I can help you with that journey, and I'm here for you. It's arm round, it's sat on the sofa, it's having a pint, having a brew, while you get the help that you need. But I can be fun doing that because people need that. And it is, you're absolutely right that the topic has this negative, you know, they talk about Black Dog and all this really tough stuff. It has this negative cloud that sits over it. Analogy, I want to part that cloud and bring a bit of sunshine into that, you know, because the majority of people are doing okay. You know, and the majority of people are fortunate enough to be operating at the bottom end of this spectrum, whatever you want to call it. If you're doing great, you're in a great position to help somebody else that isn't. And you can only do that being you. I don't think you need to change who you are. Keep being good.
I think on that basis, I think, Amir, that's your huge thumbs up there from
Absolutely. Be who you are.
Let's not be too serious about it. And of course, the great benefit of having a Mancunian on is obviously the affinity with the Gallagher brothers, and it's mad for it. Mad for it, you know, like.
Just for you. But it is, you know, it's not that cockiness. That's a different thing, you know. It's the bit I was describing it the week. It's the bit where Liam used to stand at the front of the stage, that confidence in what he was delivering, hold a microphone out and listen to X amount of thousand people sing Live Forever back to him. Because, yes, you know, he is Liam Gallagher. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's who I am. But there was some background to that. He knew that wasn't the first time he'd held that microphone out. He'd done his research. He knew that people were engaged with the story that they had as a band. He knew that people were embedded in what they were delivering. And he knew, you know, you've got to be confident to stand at the front of a stage in front of Nebworth and go like that with a microphone and it not fall flat. And I've seen it fall flat to a few people on a smaller scale. But that's what we're saying, you know, if we just educate head, people have just got a book on a shelf of information. If we can empower the heart and really engage people with a solution to this and a solution for themselves and for others, that's the point where they start to have conversations. We do something called 6+, and I'll just throw it in here because it's the challenge that I give myself every time we do anything. So have you heard of the 6 degrees of separation? Are you familiar with that?
Right. Yeah.
So 6 degrees of separation basically says very quickly that you are separated from anybody on the planet in 6 conversations. Loved that as a concept, but separation wasn't for me. So we've come up with something called the 6 connections of care. so that every interaction that we have, so it's me and you today, it's everybody listening, it's Friday morning in a workplace with 20 members of staff, we encourage those people to go and have 6 positive conversations, either around what they've heard from us or with 6 people in their world that they just turn around and go, do you know what? If I'm not doing okay, can I come to talk to you about it? And if you're not doing okay, I'm giving you license to have a conversation with me about you not doing okay, whatever that looks like. I'm not an expert. I might not know what you're going through, but I'll help you on the journey to finding a solution to where you're at. So in my dream, 20 people in a workplace on a Friday morning, go out with the mates for a pint on a Friday evening, 6 lads sat in a pub going, do you know what? I learned some stuff about mental health today that blew my mind. Let's just have a conversation. And if they go and speak to 6 other people about it, and they go and speak to 6 other people about it, all of a sudden we're not a workplace wellbeing program. We culture change. We're creating environments way beyond a lad from Burnley that I may never hear about. But do you know what? One day they might just save a life. And one day they might just help somebody change the direction from being in a really tough space to a slightly better space. And you know, that for me is the heart of what we do. It's the conversation we have every time we are having dialogue, whether it's a one-to-one meeting or a delivery session. But the challenge for anybody listening, go and do 6+, whether it's your family, your friends, because you don't know what people are going through sometimes. And people knowing that you are there on a journey with them, 100% genuine. You know, we can help you with the tips and hints and all the kind of stuff around what to ask, what not to ask. That's all out there, and we can do that. But just being there for somebody has that much value, mate. You know, asking your manager if he's all right. When does that ever happen? You know,
totally get it. Totally get it.
Roles, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so to conclude, because we've pretty much run out of time, but I knew we would. I told you at the start, just let it flow and we'll go on forever. But here, I've not done this before either, so I'm just going to, I've thrown you totally in the deep end here, and it's live. Okay, but I'm sure you'll be fine with it.
All right.
Okay, so we're talking about preferences, right?
Yep.
Indian or Chinese?
Indian.
Cats or dogs?
Don't like either, but dogs.
Apple or Android?
Oh, I'm Android.
PC or Mac?
I've just moved to Mac and I'll never go back.
Cake or biscuits?
Cake.
Pizza or pasta?
Ooh, pizza.
Walking or cycling?
Ooh, toughie. Cycling.
Zoom or face-to-face?
Oh, face-to-face every day.
Sci-fi or horror movies?
Not my favourites. I'd go sci-fi probably out of those two.
Jam or marmalade?
Jam.
So there you go. You now know the insights of Dave Scholes. Very relevant to this show or not, but just to show that we can have a little bit of light entertainment.
Brilliant.
Right. Okay. So, Dave, thanks ever so much. I'm just going to put this comment from Steve Smith, which is really good to see that people get something out of it. As you can read there, human beings need to feel safe, and when they do, the natural response is to trust and cooperate with each other. Keep up the great work, guys. So just good to see that people are getting something out of what we're saying today. So I guess what I always say on these shows is it's about the 4 I's. It's about inspiration, ideas, insight, and information. If you've not got one of those or some of those out of this interview with Dave today, then quite honestly, maybe I need to give up.
Well, I'm giving up as well, mate.
Because there was just so much in there. And the good news is, obviously, if people are watching this live, you can play it back and watch it again. It'll be recorded. It'll automatically appear on Live Streamers Association and on my own personal Facebook page. And also I put it on YouTube, and I'll send Dave a copy of it as well. So Dave, you'll be able to do what you want with it and utilize it as you wish. Planning on doing a panel show in September where I bring together a few of the people that have been on these live streams together. And I'd very much like you to be part of that. If you're open to that, it'd be great to get you on.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, and well done, David, from Karen.
That's my
She's
mother-in-law. Look at that. Mother-in-law's listening. Love that. Brilliant.
Mate, you're not supposed to admit that.
Yeah. Well, do you know, I don't want to be associated with somebody might know. I've got to be careful, Anna. You know, you've got to keep your roots close, haven't you?
You absolutely have. You absolutely have. Well, I started with this, and I'm going to finish with this because I think you deserve it. Okay, mate. Thanks ever so much. Great to see you. Great to speak to you. Great to hear from you again. And as I say, we'll have you back on in September as part of the panel shows. And have a rest of a great day and avoid all the wind. If you, that's a double meaning, actually, doesn't it?
Yeah,
really,
I'll do that. Thanks for that.
I think you said you prefer Indian, so there's probably a relevance to
it. Fair point. Fair point.
Right, mate. Thanks a lot and take care. Let's wave, everybody.
Take care.
Wave, everybody. Do the wave.
Doing the wave. Doing the wave. Love it.
Mate, take care.
Take care. Bye bye.
See you. Bye bye.